Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Amar Elm, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to be joined by Donny Mashiach, founder and CEO of Warrior Group, a trusted financial partner empowering growing businesses with fractional CFO expertise, strategic consulting, and transaction advisory. Donny's unique blend of investment banking experience and hands-on entrepreneurial support helps companies transform their financial operations and scale with confidence. Donny, welcome to Founders Future.
Thanks so much for having me, Mar.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive in. I always like to start from the beginning. So take me back to before you started Warrior Group. What were you doing beforehand? And then what really motivated you to start the company?
Yeah, absolutely. I was born and raised in Chicago, and I got married early. Dad told me, you know what? I was 19 at the time. I have
Wow.
to tell people it wasn't a mistake. I'm just Jewish, so sometimes we get married earlier. And when I came back, and this is before I even started school, Dad said, "Well, you got to figure out how you're gonna make money." So I started a small concessions company that did kosher food for Wrigley Field, and that was my first intro into the business world and entrepreneurial world. And then I was messing around on spreadsheets. I was forecasting, and like, oh, like how much revenue are we gonna have, and whatever else. And I really liked it. I really liked, I guess, Microsoft Excel and finance and all that. Someone told me like, well, hey, if you really like this stuff, there's a whole finance world out there, and you should take a look at something called investment banking. And I had no idea what it was. I had heard of Wall Street, I'd seen the movies, but I didn't really know anything about it. And then ended up doing my junior year internship at PNC, kind of rolled into the finance world and spent some time in investment banking. So I was doing mostly mergers and acquisitions of companies, originally even everything from $5 million total transactions to I think my biggest one was a couple billion, which was a lot of fun. It was very cool. I got to be like I guess one of those people in those movies that I had watched before, which
Yeah.
side note, it's a lot more financial analysis than it is deal making, but it was still a lot of fun to see all of that. And then I said after I finished up at the larger organizations, I was saying I really miss working and being an entrepreneur. Right, I really miss that type of founder edge, taking them through those types of smaller transactions, and I felt like I could make much more of an impact in that arena. So I wanted to figure out something I could take my skill set in finance in and help entrepreneurs and be in that world much more. And ended up landing on Warrior Group. And essentially, the idea of it is that we take those tactics from the large organizations, almost like the cheat codes from the large organizations, and bring them down to the small businesses. And through that, we power them to grow through finance. And like you mentioned, we do that in the operational way where we have CFOs who have seen large industry and they can bring a lot of those systems and processes in the finance arena so that it's not just a back office, but it's something that powers growth. We have that in the transaction advisory arena. So people are buying companies or selling companies, we can help them through that. And also in the consulting arena where it's like, I have these three big pain points that are stopping me from growing from 5 to 30 million, and I want to figure that out. So we can do all of that, and we do it in a really fun and creative way that takes all the strategies from large organization and brings it down to small businesses.
That's powerful. I am curious with the transition between you being an investment banker and then starting Warrior Group, because obviously when you're in that role, like billions of dollars in transactions, you're having a lot of success. Probably, I'm assuming the people around you were like, "Oh, like Donnie, you've got this amazing job, good for you." Da 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 da. From a personal and like mental and emotional perspective, was it difficult to make that transition to leave, a secure, high-paying job to start your own thing? What was that like?
Oh, absolutely. And you described a lot of the things I was going through then at the time, right? Because when you're in investment banking, there's a very clear and secure path to making multi-million dollar, right? Multiple millions of dollars a year. And it's very hard to leave that. And on top of that, I got used to telling people I'm an investment banker, right? You just get used to the prestige, you get used to that element of it. And then to jump ship and then start all over again where you have nothing and you don't have your title, you don't have your security, you really have to believe in yourself that there's a need for this and there's a way to do this. So thank God I had a lot of people who supported me, that believed in me, that my parents, first of all, they said, push comes to shove, we'll be your safety net. And that was really helpful for me on my side to leave something like that. But I also had an excellent COO, Varun, who I met actually because he was part of the investment banking team, just he's based in India. And he said, let's do this together, right? And I will take care originally of a lot of the financial modeling and execution work while you go do the business development. So I had a lot of people around me that believed in the idea, and from there, I was able to make a very difficult decision to leave. But ultimately, what drove me to do it is that Yes, money's important and making millions of dollars is important, but I realized that my passion was with the entrepreneurs, taking them through the journey of the largest transaction of their life, and then
Mm,
building something on my own that helps them do that at the same time. Like I just wanted to follow what I was passionate about. If I had the platform, I figured I was young and I had to give it a try, but it was absolutely one of the hardest decisions that I ever made in my life because it wasn't just the years I was in banking, right? I had the years before that I went to college for banking, and the time before that where I was, heading in that direction for a very long time to jump ship was very difficult. But I'm so happy for my time on Wall Street. I'm so happy for my time of what I'm building now.
yeah, that's awesome. What would you tell somebody who's maybe in that transitionary period themselves, or they're looking at the cliff, they want to take the leap, but they're maybe paralyzed. They know there's something in them pulling them to take the jump, but they're scared to do so. What would you tell somebody in that situation?
If you believe that you have a good idea and you see a way that it can work, the only thing stopping you from doing it is the discipline and doing a volume of work that would make it unlikely for you to be successful.
Mm,
The opinions of others will get in your way. Sometimes you'll get in your way. But ultimately, if you keep at it, you will be successful in it, and all the things that you're worried about by jumping will go to the wayside. So absolutely do it. Absolutely. If something's pulling you into that, it's usually your intuition saying that you want to break free of something and you want to try it. And you may look back 20 years later and then you'll regret it. But you're
mm.
also, you have the, like everyone has the ability to make a successful company out of anything. It's just a matter of doing the volume of work that would make it successful and executing on that and having the discipline to do that every day.
I love that. That was beautifully said. One thing that I find interesting though, do you truly believe that everybody has it in them to be an entrepreneur?
No, I don't. But I think that people who are like people who feel something that
Fair.
they want to try it, those are the ones who they feel like there's something more out there and they want to do it on their own. Those are the ones who should take the jump because there are people who they want the security of a job, right? There's something that they function within structure. And there's some people who are more entrepreneurial and there's some people who are better at, being in I don't know, warfare. There's a million things that people are doing, right? There's a
Yeah.
lot of different ways for people to do what they want. But I do think that if somebody is looking like over the cliff you were describing and there's something pushing them to do it and they're hesitant, they have the ability to do it. And I think that they'd be happier eventually doing it too.
Yeah, I like that. And I love what you said where it's like I've heard this from Hermosi where he's like, take so much action that it would be unreasonable for you to fail.
Yeah.
Or unreasonable for you, yeah, unreasonable for you to not succeed, something like that.
Yeah. Do a volume of work that would be unreasonable for you to not be successful.
Mm,
And that's honestly, Hormozi's been a very inspirational figure as I'm going through this. I don't think that people understand how much work it takes to be successful in these arenas because when you talk to a person, you see them at a gathering and whatever else, you'll hear the good parts, right? I just landed this deal. I just ended up winning this contract. It looks like in the next 6 months I'm going to make $1 million. They don't tell you that there's many times where it looked like you were going to be broke and a bunch of clients just left, and all of those points, those aren't cool to talk about, or that you just spent 10 hours on a Saturday or a Sunday updating your CRM and making sure that your SOPs and your procedures are sound. No one will talk about that. And
mm,
so what ends up happening often is people think that there's some easy way to make money and be successful, where, yeah, sometimes people win the lottery and that's all cool, but most of the time there's a tremendous amount of work and doubt that goes into the background, and you have to have the engine to work through it and the ability to see past what other people think.
mm. I love that, man. Dive a little bit deeper into warrior group. So just so the listeners have a little bit more context, who would you say is your ideal customer? I know you mentioned you want to take the tactics from larger organizations and give them to the smaller organizations, but are there any specific industries that you'd like to focus on? Talk to me a little bit about that, and then a little bit more about the services and the offers and whatnot.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So usually I'd say that it really becomes helpful when the companies cross about the $2 to $3 million revenue mark, right? Because a lot of times people have these ideas, right? The entrepreneur has an idea, it becomes then a company, it becomes successful, and then they're growing into $1 million, $2 million, and all of a sudden it's like, where'd all my cash go? I thought I was doing well and I didn't change anything, right?
Mm,
And there's this feeling of chaos that comes on, and no one, they don't really know why. They think it's an operational problem. It ends up a lot of times being a finance problem. And there's inability to have clarity on your cash flow, hold people accountable to the budgets, all of those things. So we find at the $2 to $3 million mark, it becomes really apparent to have a good functioning finance system. And finance is kind of like marketing in that way, where it's like everyone needs marketing, and not everyone needs finance. Not everyone just knows it yet, and sometimes they only know it too late. And then I'd say, like in terms of industries, we've had a lot of success in the luxury retail space with a lot of like creative consumer brands in terms of like jewelry, accessories, fashion, apparel, and those. We actually just brought on a really big addition to the team, the ex CFO slash COO of Veronica Beard, which is a very large organization too.
Nice.
And so we're growing in this arena. We're growing really strong in this arena. Some of the issues that we see specifically in that one is there's big issues on inventory. A lot of times people are bringing up inventory. They don't know how much they should plan for it to sell in the next quarter or the next year, and you spend too much on it, and you end up having millions of dollars of dead inventory, and that needs a lot of help. Marketing transparency, right? You spending thousands or tens of thousands of dollars a month on Google and Facebook and all these different ads, and there's not really a way to see your return, and not just your return on investment, but your profit return on investment and where you should be putting that into. Cash flow forecasting, where people are trying to figure out in 6 months from now what's going to happen, how's seasonality going to play a role in this? Can I open this new line? Can I buy this new? Can I buy this new this store? Or can I open this new store? Or whatever else? Can I make this higher? Right? Those are all these practical business decisions that a lot of times people feel like they're flying blind and they just end up making a gut decision based on intuition. When you accumulate all those decisions that are made on gut feel, you end up with finance issues and cash flow issues. And imagine if somebody had an eagle eye and a partner telling them like, hey, here's how this decision would impact your bottom line, or here's how if you hired this person, what you'd expect from your KPIs, or how could I hold my certain teams or divisions accountable for their budgets, right? And some of these companies are going, they're so reactive to operations, just assuming what works. And then all of a sudden, we take them and we transform them to proactive. And the way that we do that, and specifically in the CFO lens, is we take a CFO who's been a CFO of a Fortune 500 company or something of the like, either a past investment banker, private equity, like someone who's seen the big leads and the higher echelons of finance. We put them into the organization in a fractional capacity. It's not full time, and these companies don't necessarily need full time. We build their entire financial infrastructure. So we build them their cash flow model, their operating model, all those things. And then we become that partner in the room with them. Like we're the ones who are watching over their cash flow. They don't have to worry about it. We're the ones who are saying, hey, we dipped 20% this month, or our margins are not where they should be compared to public competitors. And we're the ones who are initiating those conversations. And that's at the point where the business can start growing and becoming better once they have visibility into what's happening and then what happens in the future. They want to go buy a business, right, or three businesses, or whatever else. Like we can do that for them. They want to go they want some debt, right? They need a line of credit to fund this thing. There's a lot that goes into that. The bank's going to have covenants you have to keep up with. There's a million things in the finance arena as these companies scale and decisions from pricing to cost and all these things that show up every day. And if you accumulate enough of those decisions and you don't have someone in the room that could help you, it ends up being problematic, or at the very least, an opportunity cost that you could have scaled so much quicker when you had that person. Should you have had that team in the room?
Mm. Boom. Yeah, you've been around a couple of times. You've been around the block a couple of times. You said that so perfectly. So I'm super curious. How long does a typical client engagement look like? Like, is it custom in terms of how long you're working together? Does it really depend on what they need? Or is it like, hey, 6 months or 12 months? Like, what does that typically look like?
We leave it open-ended. So
Cool.
usually there's not a set period of time clients come on for. Usually they come to a point where they need our support. And our goal would be is that we'd help them until either they hire a new CFO in-house, right? So maybe at 50 or $100 million, whatever it is, they would bring a new CFO in-house. Our goal is to scale with them, right? Our goal is to be the partner in the room with them. And this is not something where you do it for 2 months and then it doesn't work anymore, or that you've changed. Companies always have different goals and they get better, right? So it's something that I've had like podcasts or whatever in the past, and I've asked people, I said, how many of you when you started your business had big goals and aspirations, right? Everyone raises their hand. And then I say, well, how many of you have executed on that? And how many of you have actually fulfilled all that? And a lot less of those people raise their hands. Business at its fundamental is a vehicle for something, right? It's the vehicle for the founder to make money, get their brand out, get their passion out, whatever it is. At a certain point in time, that a lot of companies have that vehicle just stops moving in that direction. And all of a sudden, it just becomes either a headache or a lifestyle business, and they kind of just stay stagnant for the rest of their life. For us, our goal is that continuously we're going to be the ones pushing the envelope, holding them accountable, and watching after their cash flow and allowing them to make those decisions. We want to be that growth partner, right?
Mm,
Our whole mantra is powering growth through finance, turning that into the thing that makes the growth continue and being that person in the room with them. So a long way, excuse me, of answering your question is it's indefinite. We'd love to stay on until the company goes public.
beautiful. I love that, man. I am curious, like, if you could go back in time and give Donnie some advice when he was first starting Warrior Group, something that you know today, but you didn't know back then, what do you think you would tell yourself?
I'd tell myself that don't worry so much about the model scaling to $100 million. because likely the product that you offer will change so many times over by your journey to get there that your initial thoughts will be irrelevant. The most important thing is to get started and to get customers in the door, and you will figure out how to optimize and systematize everything later. Because people get this, they get stuck, right? They get stuck in, well, that's not going to work with that. And then it stops them from doing a good idea and executing on it because they're trying to find the perfect thing that gets them to 100 million. Great. I can't tell you how many times our product has changed since it started, from pitch decks and financial models to fractional CFO services to, and now we're the ability to take on if a finance team quits and then fill up controllers and bookkeepers. Like I would have never even imagined what our current product would be. And so I say the biggest piece of advice is do what it takes to get started and get money in the door and make the customers transact, and then you will figure out how to leverage your time and optimize and systematize later.
Mm, beautifully said. What is the best way for people to reach out to you to work with you?
Yeah, so on our website, warriorgp.com, info@warriorgp.com, we always offer, like, for people who are just starting out and trying to think about this, a free CFO session, so they can get a free financial overview. We'll run through their books. We'll help them understand how we could potentially help, because chances are there's millions of dollars of savings or potential growth that's probably hidden in their books they're not taking a look at. But yeah, definitely www.warriorgp.com.
Awesome, man. Any final words before we wrap up?
I would just say that the Warrior Group is named Warrior because we view entrepreneurs as contemporary warriors, that people are going to always be telling you, no, it's impossible. And then time after time, you have to fight it. And I think that's the best representation of what a contemporary warrior is. And we want to be along for the ride, and we'd love to be your partner.
Awesome. Donnie, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Amar.
So that wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go to warriorgp.com, warriorgp.com. You can also email them at info@warriorgp.com for your free CFO session. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or agency owner, and you're really looking to scale your business and you want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to hop on a call with our team and discover how we were able to go from zero to $30 million per year in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on climbing.